Hey guys, Jaden Irwin here with Little Sticks. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. This is part 4 of the Deno Crash Course, so if you haven't been following along, you might want to start from the beginning. I know I say it every time. You can do whatever you want to do. If you want to start in the middle, by all means, but you might be a little bit lost. So yeah, go ahead and start from the beginning if you want. From here, we're going to be talking about how to create a REST API with kind of what we've learned so far, which is cool, right? We're kind of just building on it. So what we talked about in the last part, really quickly to recap, is how to set up a server with modules. And we used all the different ways that you can use modules from Deno. There's a standard library from Deno that has a server. Then you can use a third-party module like Oak for setting up a server. And then you can use NPM modules for a server. I played with really all three of these, and I think the best option is going to be Oak for what we're trying to build in this course. So that's what we're going to use kind of from here on out. And Oak is actually really popular too, so I think it'll be a good option for people to kind of learn how to use a popular package. So the main reason that we're not doing Express, which we could do Express, is these NPM modules, this NPM : that's not actually supported in Deno deploy quite yet, which is what we're going to use to deploy our app. And that's the main reason I'm not just using Express, that people are already kind of familiar with. But let's go ahead and get into it. So what we're going to do here is delete kind of most of these files, to be honest. I'm going to leave the README. And the main reason for that is, I mean, you can leave them if you want, is just to kind of clean things up. Let's do a new folder called API. And then inside of that, we're going to do a main.js. And what we're going to do is go to Oak. So we're going to search for Oak at deno.land. And then let's import this application from that URL. And let's see here. I am going to copy over some data. This is just some really simple data that we're going to work with. I know we had a data.json file. And maybe a challenge for you guys would be to kind of just use the JSON and build on that. But just to keep things simple, I'm just going to do some direct JavaScript here and an array of objects. And then our next step here, we're going to do const app equals new application. And what we're going to do, just to kind of set this up really simply, let's do await app.listen, excuse me. And we're going to run this on port 8000. And I think what we need to do here is, app.use. We're just going to kind of copy most of what they have for their basic hello world, just to get this running. And this is mostly recap from the last video too. Let's open up a terminal. We're going to do cd API, and we're going to do Deno run -a main.js. And it is running, right? Because we still have that process. It didn't stop. If I go to localhost 8000, there we go, hello world. You could change this real quickly to hello world from Deno. If I refresh, well, it's not listening to changes on this file. It's not watching. So what we could do is do Deno run -a --watch main.js. So now it's watching changes that happen to this file, or actually files that it's importing as well too. So we're going to watch that watcher process started. Now let's try this again. Hello world from Deno. Now let's add a couple exclamation points. Refresh. There you go. So now it's watching the changes that are happening on this main.js file. And then maybe we want it to console log, because you notice that our terminal, it's not logging anything to say that it's running. Really, it's just saying that this watcher is seeing some changes. So let's do a event listener. And to do that, you just do app.add_event_listener. And then we're going to do listen. That's going to take in a callback. And then from here, we're going to do a console log. App is running on HTTP localhost 8000. So if we save that, there you go. App is running on HTTP localhost 8000. I can command click that, control click, and it opens it up. And I'll just make that bigger for you guys too. So there we go. We've got a little basic server kind of working. We're not using this data yet, but we will here soon. And that's really what we want to kind of get the basis of, and we can actually get rid of this context response. From here, we're going to do routing. So routing with Oak is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and kill that server real quick. I guess I don't really have to, because now we're watching. But I think I might have to, because I'm going to be changing kind of this base app.use. So I'm just going to kill it real quick. So we're going to import router from the Oak package. And this little yellow squiggly, let's see what it's saying. Update specifier to redirected specifier. So right now this is just a basic /oak. Well, maybe we want to get the specific version that's coming back from that. That's when we can do oak at v11.1, which would be the latest version. So kind of nice that the Deno extension does that. One thing I'll call out about the Deno extension that I ran into recently, just kind of a little pro tip. If you start seeing, I'm going to go to Deno and then right click extension settings. If you see inlay hints popping up and you don't like that in your JavaScript files, you can turn that off. So I'm going to turn that back on just so you can kind of see what that looks like. Not Deno lint. We want inlay hints. So there's a few inlay hints settings here, these checkboxes, Deno and then inlay hints. So notice what happens, and you might actually be seeing this right now because I believe it's on by default from now on Deno's extension. So notice that it's kind of types, right? So it's showing you what the returns are. It's showing you like the types for your parameters and arguments. So if you don't like that in your JavaScript files, you can definitely turn it off. I know that might be frustrating for people that aren't used to types. For me, going forward, I'd probably write TypeScript anyways, and this wouldn't be all that useful. But we can kind of get rid of these inlay hints if we just turn off those settings. So anything that's inlay hints, you can turn off. And then we also can go to this drop down, Deno inlay hints parameters, and we're just going to say none. So now if I go back, notice that those inlay hints are gone. It looks like we've got one more in there. I believe that's the return. Let's see if we can find it. Yep, function like return. So now if we go back, there we go. No more inlay hints. So if you do see that, that's what's going on. Don't think that Deno is adding code to your code. They're just kind of little highlights to maybe help you out with what you're working with inside of your JavaScript. I think it could be useful, especially because, you know, if you're trying to learn TypeScript but you're not quite fully ready for it, it would be a good way to start. Let's jump back into this though. So we're back into our API, and let's do const router equals new router. Right, so we're going to create a new router that we're going to use, and let's go below. You can put this wherever you want, really, as long as it's below the app. We're going to do router.get. This is going to be on the base path, so just localhost 8000. This is going to take in context. We've seen that before in the last video. Context has the response and the request that are coming in. It has a couple of other things too. Well, I believe context just has response and request, but there's some other parameters that you can also get from that route. But we're just going to kind of keep it basic. So we're going to do a get on the base path, ctx.response.body equals, and then this is where we're going to do that hello from our, let's do API this time. And we're going to go back up here and run. No middleware to process requests. Okay, so this is good that we're calling it out. So router.get, we created this router, right? And it's started, we have router.get, but now the app isn't using the router. So we do need to go and say app.use, and then this is going to be router dot, and I'm just going to cheat here real quick, router.routes. So this gets all of the routes from that router. Then we're going to do app.use router.allowed methods. So that gets all the methods that come back from the router. So .get, .post, .delete, all of that. So now, there we go. If we save that, app is running on HTTP localhost 8000, hello from our API. And we can test this. Let's add a little dinosaur emoji. And there you go, hello from our API. So now we have a router that we can start, doing more complex things with. And the way this will look is we have our one router. This is that .get request on the base path. Well, now let's start using this people array that we have. So we're going to do .get again. This is going to be /people. And then you might have guessed it, context, callback, and then this is just going to be pretty simple, ctx.response.body. So we're responding, setting the body of the response to people. So if this is working correctly, if we go to /people, localhost 8000 /people, there we go. We are seeing the people array. So that's awesome. Now let's build on this a little bit more. We're going to do .get. Well, what if I want to get a specific person? That's pretty easy to do here. So .people. And then we're going to do :slug. So that's the parameter that's getting passed in. If you look at people, we have an ID, we have a slug, we have a name. I added a slug field here, so it's an easy slugified name of that individual. So let's do .get people slug, and then same thing again, ctx. And you could clean this up if you wanted. In our API folder, we could subdivide this into separate functions, separate files. I'm just going to do a very basic router.get, a base get people, get specific person, and then we are going to do a post so you can add a person. And then maybe a challenge for you guys would be to go and delete a person from this array. But we're just going to do .get for a specific person, and then the last one's going to be a post. So from here, we're going to do const slug equals ctx.params. So it's getting the parameters of the context of the request, right? So the parameter is slug. And then we're going to do const person equals person.find. So we're going to find that person. So this is kind of an array method, right? And then, people.find. So we're finding this person out of the people array. And then person.slug absolutely equals, so triple equals, slug. Cool. And then we could just console log the person, but I think we should just respond with it. So let's do if person. So if the person returns, then we're going to do ctx.response.body equals that person. Okay. And then else, so if not, if we don't have that person, we're going to respond with that. ctx.response.body equals that person was not found. Maybe a little sad emoji. Okay. Let's save that. We're going to go back here. So we have /people is working. Refresh, right? That's good. Now let's do Luke Skywalker. And what do we have here? Oh, so this is an easy miss, and I did this when I was testing this out. So it is /people/slug. That's an easy miss if you just kind of think about the parameters and what they're doing. That's funny. I did the same thing when I was testing this out. But /people/Luke Skywalker. There we go. So /people/slug. So it's getting the slug from that request, right? It's finding it off of the slug in this case. And then it is going and finding that person. We could try another one. Let's do Darth Vader. Okay, there's Darth Vader, homeworld, Tatooine. Now let's do another one that we don't have, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. That person was not found. Sad face. Okay, cool. So the last one is going to be the most complex. We're going to do a .post. So we're going to be adding a person, in this case, Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he's not on our list, and that's just a shame. Sorry for people who are not Star Wars fans out there following along with this. You can do your own set of people if you want. That might be a good practice in setting your own people. So our last bit here is going to be the post. And this is where we're going to do a little bit more off of the post that comes in. So we're going to do const ID, slug, name, and homeworld. And then we're going to do await ctx.request.body. So this is the request from that context of the request that's coming in. And then we're going to specify that this is JSON that should be coming in, and then the value of that JSON. So I know that's a lot, but we're just destructuring from the request. So we know that JSON is going to be coming in from this post request, and then we're going to destructure. So we're going to get this information from that. Okay, so we're going to do const person equals, this is an object of the ID, the slug, the name, and the homeworld. Right? So everything that's being destructured from the request. Perfect, const person. So if person, we are going to do people dot push. So we're pushing this person that's coming in to our array, push person. And then we're just going to respond. ctx.response.body equals person added successfully. And we could respond with the people as well, but I think this is fine for now. And then let's just do an else. So ctx.response.body equals person not added, and another sad face. Okay, so now let's test this request, this post request, pretty simply. I'm going to use Thunder Client. If you haven't used Thunder Client before, it's an extension you can just search for called Thunder Client. It's very popular for VS Code. Go ahead and take a look at it if you want. Or you can use Postman if you're a Postman fan. I was for a long time. It's just kind of nice to have something like Postman, maybe not as feature rich, but inside of VS Code. So I do have my request here. You can just go ahead and click new request if you want. Very simple, right? So new request, and then you're treated with this page. So we're going to do HTTP localhost 8000. And let's just test our GET request. I know we've been doing it in the browser. Well, we can do the same thing here with this client. So there you go. It is responding with a status of 200 with all of the people. So that's a GET request. Now let's do a POST request. And I already prepped a little bit here. So we have HTTP localhost 8000/people. This is a POST request on that endpoint. And then we have our body right here and some JSON. So we're passing up this JSON with an ID number. And we have Obi-Wan, Kenobi, and then the home world right there. I don't think Tatooine is his home world, but we're just going to go with it. So now let's go ahead and test this. We're going to hit send. Okay, we have a 200. That's good. person added successfully. Now we can test this if we go back to our GET request on the people. Remember, we only have Darth Vader at the bottom with ID 4, so we don't have Obi-Wan. So let's hit GET, scroll all the way down. There you go. Right at the bottom, we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that might be a little bit confusing too if you're looking at your code and you're like, well, it didn't add Obi-Wan here, right? And that's because this isn't really like a database. This isn't holding state right now. It's only holding state internally in our app. So this is kind of like the base data. You could think of it that way. If you wanted to do a little bit something a little bit more like a database, then you could do a JSON file, and then you'd have to read from that JSON file and rewrite that JSON file with the new data. That would be a kind of a really basic way to do that. And the reason I mainly did it with just this JavaScript is because it's faster. There's a little bit less complexity when you do it that way. We could also test this too. So maybe you just want to respond with all of the people after it's been pushed. So if we go back to our post request, hit send, now I believe we should see not one, but two Obi-Wans. Yep, so there we go. I hit it again, and now we have two Obi-Wan Kenobis. So 2 post requests, and we end up with 2. And it's responding with the people. So that's really all I had prepped for this one. I know that might be a lot for someone who hasn't set up a REST server before, but this is just like a really basic REST server that gets the people, gets a specific person from the people array, and then the last one is adding a person to that people array. So from here, we're actually going to use, I know I've said it already, we're going to use Firebase to really actually connect a database to this. And then we might set up a simple front end that requests that database too. So you can kind of see like all the Deno parts that are happening, really going from very basic up to a simple server. And then now we're going to move on to more complex server with a database and all of that. So yeah, stay tuned for the next part. And I appreciate you guys following along, and hope you have a good one. Peace.